One of the things people get badly wrong about pitching is failing to understand that a pitch is a story. And story is the way that human beings influence other human beings. Humans make decisions not with our heads but with our hearts. And you may think that sounds surprising for something such as a pitch for investment, but it's as true as it is for a venture capitalist, as it is for someone deciding, who they want to date. In fact, dating is not a bad analogy for pitching in many ways, in that the purpose of a pitch is to get the next conversation, not closure. And a lot of people forget that too. They want to say everything, but that's not the point. The point is to create curiosity, to make bold statements that you can back up, that are true, that are honest, that get people curious to have that second conversation with you. So go for curiosity, not closure. And also go for making an emotional connection over building a case. You are not a lawyer. You are influencing authentically, using the truth, the psychology of another person's decision. A pitch is not spin. It is not exaggeration. It is not manipulative leaving out of certain elements of the truth so that things will sound more compelling than they actually are. None of those things. Even if you do succeed, which is unlikely, using those techniques, you're setting yourself up for a big fall when people discover the real story and the exclusions you left out after the event. Don't do that stuff. A pitch is the art of saying things as they are with style, with succinctness, drawing out the distilled essence of what it is you have. So if a pitch is a story, then there are certain features of a story that we can use. Metaphor. If you're describing something which is unfamiliar, consider using metaphor to make it easier for us to understand. It's one of the fastest ways to bridge something unknown to something known immediately. So for example, in the work that I do, which focuses on growing the people who run companies, I say that running a high-tech company is like having a high-performance motorcycle. Right? Two things are important. One, you want a great bike, that's your business vehicle, market validation, business case, business model, all that stuff. But two, it's super important that the rider knows what they're doing. And if we don't educate the rider to know what they're doing, how to lead, how to think, how to have the right healthy habits, how to pitch, then we're actually setting up people to spin out of control. And my focus is very much on making sure the rider is not on top of a death machine through their lack of knowledge of how to ride this high-performance vehicle. So that's a metaphor that describes the distinction between the work that I do versus other people who are focused more heavily on the business vehicle, the business model, the business case, the market validation, the IP protection strategy, all those other things which are super necessary, but not the thing that I focus on, which is the rider. So that's a lot simpler than trying to describe what I do and how it's different from scratch. So metaphor is a powerful device. What else is important about story? Well, even more important than that is the structure. Look, if you go and see a movie, which is a story, right? And even one scene is out of place, is it possible that the whole movie doesn't make sense? Or is diminished in its impact? Well, most people I see pitch get their scenes out of place. And they think that it's okay because all the information's there, but they forget that this is not a list of information, this is a story. And in story, order is important. Let me give you one very concrete example. So if you're watching Star Wars, okay? Let's pick the 1977, the original New Hope version of Star Wars. And if Luke Skywalker dashes onto the scene to save Princess Leia in the first scene, we just go, who's that guy? Who's she? What's he doing? Why do I care? And yet when it comes to our pitch, most entrepreneurs commit the same sin. Your product is the hero. Don't have that be the first thing you talk about. The first scene, the first thing you say should not be to talk about your product. We don't care yet. We don't know the context. You haven't set up the story. You haven't told us why there is bad stuff happening in the world. You haven't told us about the empire. You haven't told us about the rebellion, which is your team. And you haven't told us about how you fit into the solution. So first we need to understand what the problem is in the world that you solve. And not only what the problem is, but why we should care about that. What's the impact of that problem occurring on the world? If you have some method to stop pathogens being released into the waterways, don't start by talking to us about your pathogen denial process. Talk about the 1.8 million children who are dying needlessly in the world because of viral pathogens in waterways.